Okay, so the ones we come from, um, if you want to try to put it into a narrative, what has been discovered, they do this every few years. The science people will get enough little dots that they can make a line, right? And then they get like super duper excited, right? Like dogs when you come home, and they get all like they start telling people that they know, like people that have money and or people that don't, but that they might know people that have money, and they'd be like, anyway, they get together like, you know, $200,000 or something. It's enough for them to do a decent documentary style where they tell the line that they found, right? Because when the fruit is ripe, the Father purgeth it, that it beareth more after its kind. Okay. Let's get into why do people feel compelled to confess? Why not be quiet? That's more in your self-interest. But people want to tell people what they did. Ah, okay. Anyway, that's another story. Where were we? Purgeth the fruit, beareth more. Right, they found light. Okay. Anyway, so there were one. It was like a chimpanzee, but that mostly walked on two legs and had smaller arms. And then they lived, and then they died. But then shortly thereafter, the weather changed. And shortly thereafter, but there were two who were like the first, but different from one another. And they lived for time, and then they died. And then came Homo sapiens, I think. I think these ones, I think, traveled, and then they became. Then there were Neanderthals, and then there were Homo sapiens. Okay, but the ones that we are like, they could make stone weapons. So they were doing manufacturing. They were making what they wanted. They thought of it, and they figured out how to make it, and they made things. So the other apes will pick something up that's already occurring in nature that's not part of their body and use it to eat or get what they want, mostly to eat, you know. And then, but they don't make things, really. So the ones we come from were scavengers. They were tiny. They were like, 5 feet tall, maybe not even quite. I mean, they were very small. And they had a stone axe, but it won't slice flesh. It might could rough it off of a bone, but it won't slice flesh. So they were probably muscularly more strong than we are, like the other apes. But they had no defense. They might have been able they might have had them like more sophisticated calling. They may have given one another names for calling purposes. Like, we don't know, but the point is they're relatively defenseless in the fucking Africa. Like, I think it was grasslands at the time, but there were fucking still African animals there, like big fucking scary shit. Apparently, there used to be other lions, but they were much smaller than the ones that live in Africa today. So, the ones we come from, yes. So in order for them to be able to survive, they would have had to be observing the entire lifestyles of like literally all of the animals in their environment so that they could learn how to just go around them. We started off as scavengers. Somebody went out and lived in fucking African fucking savannah with nothing but those tools. And they found that you couldn't do anything with them except for get bone marrow. That's the only protein they were. So that means the lion killed it in the morning, and then he gets too hot, he has to go lay down. And then for a little while, the hyenas can get some bites in before they get too hot and they have to go lay down. And then for a little while, the vultures can come in and pick. But when it gets really hot, they also have to go find shade. But we can sweat. And then we go out and get the scraps after all of everybody else has had their turn. So you think about what kind of knowledge would have been accumulating in there over a million years of time, and when did they get to the point when they wanted to do more but were unable to? And they asked for it. Okay, anyway. But that's where we come from. That's where we started.